Hi, I'm Rob from Sherpa Consultants, and today we're going to look at the formula fields in the Sherpa Infinity application. Everything we've looked at so far has been in a code-free environment. Formulas are a little bit different in that they do require a little bit of technical knowledge in order to code the formula correctly. We're not going to concentrate too much on the exact language used. For those who are interested, it's using a language called Transact SQL or TSQL. So if you are feeling adventurous and you want to look at what possibilities are out there to create your own formulas, that's what you need to search for. There are also plenty of tools available to help you write these formulas. So again, get in touch if you want us to point you in the right direction. Lastly, as well, you have us as a resource. So if there is a formula that you're struggling to do or you need advice on, just get in touch, send us an email, and we can help you out. Okay, so today in this lesson, what we want to do is we want to go through a couple of examples of the formulas that are available just to really show you what's possible and how powerful they can be. The first thing we want to look at is an example of a basic calculation formula. So that's using add, subtract, divide, multiply. After that, we're going to move on to an auto number formula. Okay, so I know you've already seen these. We've referred to them in the past in the invoices table. So we're going to look at how we create those. And then lastly, we're going to look at a case when else formula, which is really powerful way of building logic into your system. Okay, so the first one we want to look at is calculations. Calculations make use of the mathematical operators, the most common of which you'll probably use are the add, subtract, multiply, and divide. The only thing to be aware of when using these and writing the formulas is that the fields that you use within these have to be numeric most of the time. And the reason for that is obviously if they're not numeric, the formula will return an error. So just a basic example which we're going to kind of use is field ID 1 divided by field ID 2. Okay, so very basic calculations. You're probably used to doing something similar in things like spreadsheets, so nothing more complicated than that. So let's look at an example I have already. So up at the top here, what I'm going to do is just copy this formula and I'm going to create it as a formula within our system. And you can kind of see what it's trying to do. Now, this is a field ID. This is the full field ID, which consists of two parts. It's got the table name there, table ID, inf_invoices. And then the second part is the field ID. So that's inf_invoice value. And you can kind of see what it's doing. So we're trying to divide the invoice value by the invoice quantity. And what that's going to give us is a unit price. So let's go back into our Infinity application. So here you can see I've got invoice value, invoice quantity. And what we're going to do is create a unit price column which divides the value by the quantity. So let's go and do that. Click on the menu, settings, tables. Okay, before I referred to the full field ID as being in two parts. The first part was the table ID. Here you can see what the table IDs are for each of the tables we've created. There you can see our inf_invoices. If I edit that, it'll take us to the list of fields that are in there, and that'll take us to the second part, which is the field ID. So here you can see we've got the inf_invoice value and the inf quantity. So for us to create the formula, just click on the plus icon. Just give it a name, unit price. Click on formula and it just gives us a simple text box and I can just paste that formula in. Click on save. Okay, let's have a look at what that looks like. If I go back to the list of tables and then just hover over invoices, so let's look at the system generated table. And there you can see our unit price. Okay, and that's it. So that's the basic calculation field. So the next thing we want to look at is the auto number. So again, we've seen this before against the invoices. We're just going to look at the formula that I used in order to create that. The formula field makes use of a function within TSQL called format. And what format does is it pads out a number. So although you might have record ID 1, 2, 3, etc., what that does is it pads it out with zeros. So you get 001, 002, 003, etc. It also is an example of knitting together different bits of text. So if we have a look at the example here, what I have is prefix, which is my kind of text that I'm going to put before the number part, and then a plus sign because we're knitting together two bits of text, and then the format word, which is the function within TSQL, and then the field that I'm going to format, and then followed by lastly these zeros in single quotes. Okay, and that's how many sort of padding characters that you want. Okay, so if I go across to my notepad file, you can see I have a prepared one here. So you can see what we're going to do. The prefix text I'm going to say is invoice dash, and then I'm going to format the primary key field, which is a hidden field. Again, we can help you with that. It's a hidden field that sits in the background. And I'm going to pad it out with 5 zeros. So if I copy that, we go back into our application, go to settings, tables. Okay, if we edit invoices, okay, so you can already see I've got my invoice number there, which is a formula. We're just going to create an alternative one. Just call it alt, and give it formula as the field type, and then drop in the text. Okay, let's have a look at how that looks. Hover over invoices and let's look at the system page. So there in our last column, invoice number alternative, you can see exactly what it's doing. So it's putting our invoice dash 00001, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, and that's it. So it's dead easy to create them. You do need a bit of technical know-how on the format function, but once you've kind of seen how to do that once, it's really easy to apply to other tables as well. So the last thing we want to look at is the case when else. Case when else formulas are similar to if then else, and follow the kind of logic below. So it starts off with case, and then it lists out a when condition 1 equals true, then result 1. When condition 2 equals true, then result 2. And it keeps on going. You can put as many conditions as you want. And then finally, you've got else, and then a result. And that's kind of like the catch-all. So if none of those conditions are true, then show the final result. And then finally, you just finish that off with end at the bottom, and then you're good to go. So let's have a look at an example that I've prepared so you can kind of see the thing we're doing. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at each individual invoice value and try and classify it as either high value, free of charge, or normal value. And we're going to do that by saying when the invoice value field is greater than 5,000, so that's our cutoff that we've chosen, then high value. And it's just going to print that out as text in single quotes. When the invoice value is 0, then it's going to say it's free of charge. And then our catch-all kind of else, so everything else that doesn't fall into one of those two categories, we're going to say is normal value. And then we're just finishing it off with the end. So if I copy all of that, go back into our application, go to settings, tables. Let's edit the invoices table. Add a formula. So we're going to call it invoice category. Select formula from the drop down and then paste our formula. Click on the save. Okay, let's have a look how that looks. I go into the system generated pages, invoices, and here you can see at our end there, so you've got our formula calculating. So what it's doing is it's looking to see the individual invoice value, and it's using that logic to say if it's over than 5,000, we're going to classify it as high value. If it's 0, then we're going to classify it as free of charge, and everything else we're going to put as normal value. We can just prove that works just by editing this top one here. So at the minute it's £10,000, so it's getting classified as high value. If I edit that and just 0 the invoice value, what we should see is that changing to free of charge, which it does. Okay, and hopefully that gives you a really good idea of how powerful the formula functionality can be. Again, it is quite technical, but there's plenty of resources, including us, if you want to have a go at doing it. Okay, and that's it for this lesson. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to click onto the link at the end of the video if you want to go on to the next lesson. Thanks for now. See you soon.